Emily never expected that Friday night to become a turning point in her life. She walked into the downtown Chicago club with the same heaviness she had been carrying all week. Her shoulders felt tight, her smile felt forced, and her thoughts refused to quiet down no matter how much she tried to calm herself on the car ride there. She had hoped the music, lights, and laughter around her would drown out the noise in her mind. Instead, everything felt louder, almost like the world knew she had been struggling and decided to echo it back. The club was crowded, but Emily felt strangely alone as she followed her friends inside. They were excited, ready to dance, ready to forget about their own problems for a few hours. She wanted to join them. She wanted to feel that same spark of excitement, but she couldn't bring herself to match their energy. Her heart wasn't in it. She kept telling herself she would relax eventually, that all she needed was a few minutes to adjust. But even after 10 minutes, she still felt disconnected from the moment. She scanned the room trying to distract herself, watching strangers laugh and move as if happiness came easily to them. She envied the way they seemed carefree. She wished she could switch off her thoughts and just enjoy the night like everyone else. Her job had been overwhelming lately, deadlines piling up, expectations increasing, and pressure building in ways she didn't know how to explain. She felt unseen at work and unheard at home. She felt like she had been carrying everything alone for too long. Her friends headed toward the dance floor, motioning for her to join them, but Emily shook her head gently, signaling that she needed a moment. She walked toward the side of the room where the music softened enough for her to breathe. She leaned against the wall and took a slow breath, letting her eyes drift across the crowd again. And that was the moment she saw him. He was standing near the bar, tall and confident without trying to be. A black man with a calm presence that made him stand out in the loud room. His posture was relaxed, his expression thoughtful, as if he was taking in everything without rushing to be part of it. There was something about him that pulled her attention before she even understood why. Emily tried to look away quickly, embarrassed at how long her eyes lingered. She didn't want him to think she was staring. She pressed her lips together and forced her gaze downward, pretending to fix her hair. But curiosity nudged her again, and she risked one more glance. And that was when their eyes met. It wasn't a dramatic moment like in the movies. It was quiet, subtle, almost gentle. But it hit Emily in a way she didn't expect. Something about his eyes made her chest tighten, not in fear or discomfort, but in a way that felt like recognition. A strange, soft recognition of someone she didn't even know. She quickly looked away again, feeling her cheeks grow warm. She didn't understand why she was reacting like that. She wasn't used to intense moments with strangers. She barely made eye contact with people on the train, so why did this one glance feel different? When she finally gathered the courage to check if he was still looking her way, he wasn't. Not at first. He was turning slightly, talking to someone behind him. Emily let out a small breath, relieved. But the relief lasted only a second because when he faced forward again, his eyes met hers instantly, almost like he had been searching for her in the crowd. And this time he didn't look away. Emily froze. Her heart thumped a little harder, and she didn't know whether to smile, nod, or pretend she didn't see him. Before she could decide, he started walking toward her. Not fast, not dramatically, but with steady confidence, like he had already made up his mind. Emily's breath caught as he reached her side of the room. She had no idea what to say. She wasn't used to strangers approaching her so directly, and her nerves tightened as he stopped a few steps away. But then he spoke, and his voice instantly softened everything inside her. "Are you okay?" 3 simple words. But they hit her harder than a long conversation ever could. His tone wasn't aggressive or flirtatious. It wasn't loud or pushy. It was warm and sincere, like he had been watching her long enough to notice her mood without judging her for it. Emily opened her mouth to answer, but the words tangled in her throat. She felt exposed, almost embarrassed that her emotions were so visible. She tried to smile politely, hoping to hide it, but he didn't seem fooled. His eyes stayed gentle, patient, understanding in a way that melted some part of her defenses. "You look like you could use a moment away from all the noise," he said softly. Emily felt something loosen in her chest. The weight she carried didn't disappear, but it suddenly felt lighter, like she was no longer holding it alone. She nodded slowly, and he gave a small, reassuring smile. It wasn't a wide smile, not a dramatic one. but one that carried kindness without forcing anything. For reasons she couldn't explain, she trusted him. Not blindly but instinctively, the kind of trust that comes from sensing someone's calmness. Her friends were dancing, laughing, unaware of what was unfolding in the corner of the room. And for once Emily didn't care. She didn't feel the need to run back to them. She felt safe standing right where she was. He gestured toward a quieter section near the wall, offering but not insisting. Emily hesitated for only a moment before following him. As they walked, the music faded enough that she could hear her own breathing again. For the first time that evening, she felt grounded instead of overwhelmed. He introduced himself. "I'm Jordan." She introduced herself too, her voice a little unsteady at first. "I'm Emily." Jordan nodded as if her name felt familiar, even though they had never met. They stood facing each other, the soft lights above casting a warm glow that made the moment feel even more intimate. Emily studied him quietly. He had a calm presence, but there was a depth in his eyes that suggested he noticed more than most people. That was what unsettled her in the best way. He saw things. He saw her. Emily hadn't felt genuinely seen in a long time. Jordan didn't rush the conversation. He didn't bombard her with questions or overwhelm her with jokes. He simply asked her how she was feeling. Not how her night was going. Not if she was having fun. But how she was feeling. That alone broke something open inside her. She told him it had been a long week. She told him she felt tired, overwhelmed, and disconnected from herself. She didn't know why she shared so much with a stranger. But the more she spoke, the easier it became. Jordan listened quietly, nodding without interrupting, giving her space to express what she had been holding in. The way he listened made her feel human again. It made her feel real. And as she spoke, something in Jordan's eyes softened even more, like he understood her exhaustion in ways she didn't need to explain. She noticed how his posture relaxed as he listened, how he leaned in slightly when she shared something personal, not intrusively but attentively. At one point she apologized for talking too much, but Jordan shook his head gently. "You're allowed to be exhausted," he said softly. "Life gets heavy. You don't have to pretend it's not." Emily felt warmth bloom in her chest. No one had ever said something so simple yet so comforting to her before. It felt like he had cut through all the noise around her and spoken directly to the quiet places in her heart. The crowd continued to dance. The lights continued to flash. But Emily and Jordan were standing in their own space, a small bubble of calm in the middle of chaos. And even though the night was still young, Emily felt a shift inside her. A small spark of relief. A moment of connection that she didn't expect. She didn't know what this meeting meant. She didn't know where this night would lead. But she knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just another night. Something meaningful had begun the moment Jordan walked toward her. Something she would remember long after she left the club. Something she didn't yet understand but could already feel. Jordan led Emily to a quieter corner near the back of the club, a place where the music softened into a slow, steady rhythm instead of the loud pulse of the dance floor. The lights were dimmer there, and people passed by only occasionally. It wasn't isolated, but it felt calmer, like the noise of the world had taken a step back to give them space. Emily didn't know why she trusted him enough to follow, but the moment she reached the quieter spot, she felt a strange sense of relief, like she had stepped out of a storm she had been trapped in for too long. They stood facing each other, not too close, not too far, just enough to talk without raising their voices. Jordan leaned slightly against the wall, hands relaxed at his sides, as if he wanted her to feel comfortable, not pressured. Emily crossed her arms for a second out of habit, then let them fall when she realized she didn't feel defensive around him. It surprised her how quickly her tension eased. She wasn't used to opening up to strangers, especially in loud places like this, but something about Jordan made it feel natural. "So," Jordan said softly, "tell me something real. Not small talk. Something honest." His tone wasn't demanding. It was encouraging, almost gentle, as if he wanted to make room for whatever she needed to say. Emily hesitated. She wasn't sure where to start. She usually kept her feelings to herself, even when her friends asked how she was doing. But Jordan looked at her with patient eyes, waiting without rushing her. That patience broke down the wall she had been holding up all week. "I've been tired," she said finally. Not just tonight. For a long time. Jordan nodded slowly, signaling he was listening. Emily continued, surprised at the steadiness in her own voice. I work a lot. Probably too much. Everyone says that. But it's not the hours. It's the feeling that nothing I do is ever enough. I keep trying, but it's like the more I give, the more people expect. Jordan's expression shifted, understanding settling in his eyes. I get that, he said quietly. Emily took a breath and kept going because once she started, the words wouldn't stop. Lately I feel like I'm losing pieces of myself just trying to keep up. At work, I'm invisible unless someone needs something. At home I pretend I'm fine so people don't worry. And then I come to places like this because my friends want to go out and I pretend to be okay here too. I'm tired of pretending. She didn't realize how emotional her voice sounded until she finished speaking. She looked down, embarrassed by how vulnerable she'd just been. But Jordan didn't look shocked or uncomfortable. His face softened and he shifted slightly closer, not enough to crowd her, but enough to show he wasn't pulling away. Thank you for saying that, he said. A lot of people would hide it. Most people pretend they're okay until they break. Emily looked up surprised. Jordan wasn't giving generic comforting lines. He was speaking like he understood exactly what she meant. It made something inside her loosen again. What about you? She asked quietly. Tell me something real too. Jordan exhaled, the kind of slow breath that suggested he didn't usually talk about himself either. I moved here 2 years ago, he said. I thought starting fresh in Chicago would help me figure out what I wanted. But moving doesn't erase everything you're running from. Emily listened closely, noticing the faint sadness behind his steady voice. I left Toronto because I felt stuck. Not because I hated it, but because I didn't know who I was anymore. I was trying to be someone I wasn't. Trying to live the way people expected me to. And when you live like that long enough, you start losing yourself. Their experiences were different, yet strangely similar. Emily felt a connection forming quietly between them, not rushed, not forced, but real. So you came here to start over? She asked. Jordan nodded. I thought distance would fix things. But distance can't fix things you carry inside you. You can't outrun yourself, no matter how far you move. Emily felt those words hit her deeper than she expected. She had been trying to outrun her stress for months. Hearing him say it so simply made her realize she wasn't alone in that struggle. But you seem calm, Emily said gently. Like you have things figured out. He laughed softly, shaking his head. Trust me, I don't. I just learned to breathe through the chaos. I learned to slow down even when life tries to push me faster. Emily smiled for the first time that night. Really smiled, not the polite one she always used. Jordan noticed and his eyes lit up slightly, happy to see her relax. They kept talking, switching from heavy topics to lighter ones without effort. Emily hadn't had a conversation flow so naturally in years. They talked about music first. Jordan liked soft R&B, deep voices, and lyrics that meant something. Emily liked indie pop and quiet songs she listened to on long walks. Somehow their tastes blended well. And they laughed when they both admitted they listened to sad songs when stressed. Then they talked about childhood memories. Emily shared stories of summer trips with her family, long drives and picnics by the lake. Jordan talked about growing up in Toronto, playing basketball at the park, and the cold winters he pretended to hate but secretly loved. Each story revealed a small piece of who they were, and each piece brought them closer. Emily found herself watching Jordan when he spoke. The way his eyes softened when he remembered something meaningful. The way his voice deepened slightly when he talked about the struggles he never shared with others. The way he seemed strong without trying to be. Not in a loud or forceful way, but in a steady, grounded way that made her feel safe. At one point, Emily laughed at something he said. A real bright laugh she hadn't heard from herself in weeks. Jordan's smile widened at the sound, and she felt a warm flutter in her chest. He wasn't flirting with her. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply present. And that made him stand out more than anyone else she had met in years. But then, something shifted in Jordan's expression. It was subtle, but Emily noticed immediately. His eyes flickered for a moment with hesitation, almost like he remembered something important. The lightness in his face changed, replaced with a thoughtful seriousness. He looked down briefly, as if deciding whether to speak. Emily's heart tightened with curiosity. "What is it?" she asked softly. Jordan looked up, meeting her eyes again. There was something complicated and gentle in his gaze, something he hadn't shared yet. "There's something I need to tell you," he said slowly. Emily straightened slightly, unsure if she should prepare for something bad. The air around them felt heavier now, charged with anticipation. Jordan took a breath, not dramatic but steady, as if he wanted to say the truth correctly. "I didn't meet you by coincidence tonight," he said softly. "Not exactly." Emily felt her pulse quicken, uncertain what he meant. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, possibilities. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she couldn't ignore the sudden seriousness in his tone. Jordan saw the confusion in her face and continued gently. "It's nothing dangerous. Nothing bad. I just didn't walk over here randomly." Emily swallowed, waiting. "I saw you here last week," he said quietly. "You didn't see me. You were with your friends sitting near the side looking tired. Like tonight." Emily froze. She didn't know whether to feel exposed or surprised. She tried to remember who she spoke to last week, who she looked at, but she didn't remember seeing him. Jordan's voice stayed calm and sincere. "I wanted to talk to you then. I noticed you looked sad. I don't know why, but something about the way you sat alone for a moment, it stayed with me." The words made her heart swell in a way she didn't expect. Someone noticing her sadness last week was one thing. Someone remembering it and thinking about it afterward, that was different. That was meaningful. "But I didn't come over," Jordan continued. "It didn't feel like the right moment. You looked like you needed space. I figured maybe it wasn't my place." Emily held her breath. "But tonight," he said quietly, "I walked in and the first person I saw was you." A soft, emotional shock ran through her. Jordan's eyes held hers gently. "I don't know why life works like that. I just knew I shouldn't walk away this time." Emily didn't speak. She couldn't. Her chest felt full of surprise, warmth, confusion, and something she wasn't ready to name. Jordan took another slow breath. "I'm not pretending this is love at first sight or anything big like that. I just felt something. Something that told me to check on you. Something that said maybe you shouldn't be alone with those heavy thoughts tonight." Emily felt tears gather in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Not tears of sadness. Tears of being seen. Jordan's voice grew softer. "I just didn't want you to feel alone." Emily's heart ached in the most gentle, unexpected way. No one had said something like that to her in a long time. Not with honesty, not with kindness, not without expecting anything in return. And in that quiet corner of the club, surrounded by fading music and moving lights, Emily realized that this night, this conversation, this stranger's sincerity, was something she would never forget. Something was beginning. Something she didn't want to run from. Emily stared at Jordan, her heart beating faster than the music around them. The club felt distant now, as if the people dancing and laughing were part of another world that didn't include the moment she was standing in. Jordan's confession hung between them like a quiet truth that couldn't be ignored. She didn't know what she expected him to say, but hearing that he had noticed her before, noticed her when she didn't notice herself, hit her deeper than anything else that night. Jordan didn't rush to fill the silence. He watched her carefully, not with pressure, but with gentle patience, as if he wanted to give her time to understand what he meant. Emily felt her breath shake slightly. No one had cared enough to remember her presence from one week to the next. No one had looked at her sadness long enough for it to matter. Yet this man, a stranger until an hour ago, had carried the memory of her with him. "Why?" she finally whispered, her voice soft but steady. "Why did you come back?" Jordan looked down briefly, running his thumb across his palm as if gathering his thoughts. When he met her eyes again, there was honesty there, quiet, deep, and sincere. "Because you reminded me of something I used to feel," he said. "That tired look you had last week. I recognized it. I've been there. I know how heavy it is when life keeps taking pieces of you. And I don't know why, but something in me said you shouldn't feel that alone." Emily felt the warmth rise in her chest like a slow tide. She didn't know what to say. She wasn't used to people noticing the small cracks she tried so hard to hide. She wasn't used to someone taking her feelings seriously without asking her to explain or defend them. "And maybe," Jordan added quietly, "maybe I came back because I hoped you'd be here again. I don't know what that means. I just know the thought stayed with me all week. Emily felt her breath catch. His honesty was disarming in the most gentle way. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't trying to force a connection. He was admitting something vulnerable. Something that came from a place of sincerity rather than ego. She took a slow step closer without fully realizing she did. I didn't think anyone saw me last week, she said softly. Jordan gave a small smile, not dramatic, just warm. Sometimes the people who feel the most invisible are the ones someone is quietly watching out for. Emily lowered her eyes, feeling tears gather again. Not sad tears. Not overwhelmed tears. But the kind that come when someone finally says something she's needed to hear for a long time. Jordan gently shifted his weight, careful not to startle her. I didn't say anything last week because I didn't want to make your night heavier, he said. But when I saw you again tonight, it felt like a second chance to do the right thing. Emily finally lifted her gaze, meeting his eyes again. There was no hesitation in his expression, no hidden intention, just a gentle, steady feeling she couldn't quite name. What's the right thing? She asked quietly. To make sure you knew you weren't alone. The words settled into her like warm light. For a moment she didn't speak. Her throat felt tight, her chest full. She didn't know how to thank him for something so simple yet so meaningful. The music in the background changed to a softer beat, almost as if the night itself wanted to slow down for them. People moved past, laughing and chatting, but Emily and Jordan were standing in a small pocket of stillness, untouched by the noise. Jordan shifted slightly, sensing her emotions rising. Hey, he said with a gentle smile. I didn't say all that to make things heavy. I just wanted to be honest. I'm not upset, Emily replied quickly. I'm just surprised. And grateful. Jordan nodded, his eyes softening. Good. That's all I hoped for. Emily took a breath, feeling the weight of the week slowly fading in ways she didn't expect. She didn't know how long they had been standing there, but time felt softer around them, like the night had stretched to give them a moment that didn't exist anywhere else. What did you think when you saw me tonight? She asked, her voice steady even though her heart wasn't. Jordan's answer came without hesitation. I thought you looked tired, he said. But I also thought you looked stronger than last week. Like you were trying. Like you were still fighting through whatever you're carrying. Emily felt her chest tighten again. She wasn't used to someone seeing her strength. She was used to hearing she needed to be stronger, not that she already was. And then, Jordan added, I thought I didn't want to walk out of here without at least asking if you were okay. Emily didn't realize how much she needed to hear those words until they were already spoken. Something inside her melted, the lonely part, the tired part, the part that felt invisible for far too long. Thank you, she whispered again, but this time her voice didn't shake. Jordan gave a small nod. You don't have to thank me. It just felt right. Emily took another breath, then asked something she had been wondering since their conversation began. What if I hadn't come tonight? Jordan shrugged lightly. Then I probably would have wondered about you for another week. Maybe longer. Some people just stay in your mind even if you know nothing about them. Emily felt a soft smile forming, one she couldn't control. You don't even know me. Maybe not, Jordan said softly. But that doesn't mean I can't care. His words landed in her chest with quiet force. She didn't know what this was becoming. It wasn't love. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't something heavy or unrealistic. It was something gentle. Something new. Something that made her feel seen. Emily stepped closer again almost without thinking. They were only a foot apart now, close enough to feel each other's presence in a way that made the moment feel even more real. What do you want from this? She asked. Cautiously, afraid of the answer but needing to know. Jordan paused, considering his words carefully. Honestly, I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to turn this into some dramatic moment. I just want to know you. Not everything. Not all at once. Just enough for us to understand each other. Emily blinked slowly. The simplicity of his answer hit her harder than any romantic line could have. He wasn't trying to push her into anything. He wasn't asking for more than she could give. He was offering something rare, patience. And what if we don't understand each other? She asked. Jordan smiled gently. Then at least we tried. Emily held his gaze, letting the truth in his eyes reassure her. She didn't know how many minutes passed like that, but it didn't matter. The moment didn't need time. Simply existed. The crowd shifted again and someone brushed past Emily, breaking the moment for a second. She stepped back instinctively, but Jordan reached out and lightly touched her elbow. Not pulling her back, just grounding her. "You okay?" he asked. Emily nodded. "Yeah, I am." It was the first time all week she meant it. Jordan let his hand drop gently. "Good," he said. "That makes tonight worth it." Emily hesitated before speaking again. "Do you want to continue this somewhere quieter? Or maybe sit for a bit?" Jordan looked surprised, but in a warm way. "Only if you want to." "I do," Emily said with certainty she didn't expect. They walked to a small lounge area near the entrance, where a few seats were open. They sat side by side, not touching but close enough to feel a shared warmth. The music was faint there, almost like a hum. Emily felt calm, grounded for the first time in days. Jordan rested his arm on the back of the couch, not around her but close enough to feel protective. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. What made you come out tonight even though you felt tired?" Emily thought for a moment. "I guess I wanted to feel something different. Something better. Even if it was just for a few hours." Jordan nodded. "And did you?" She looked at him, her heart warmer than she expected. "Yeah, I did." Jordan smiled, the kind of smile that made the night softer. "Good. That means I didn't ruin anything." "You didn't ruin anything," Emily said softly. "You changed it." Jordan looked down for a second, as if absorbing her words. When he lifted his gaze again, there was a quiet emotion there, something gentle, something hopeful. "I'm glad," he said. They continued talking, slower now, more comfortable. They talked about the little things, favorite movies, foods they loved, places they wanted to visit someday. Jordan told her about the way he loved long walks at night because it cleared his mind. Emily told him she loved Sunday mornings when the world was slow and quiet. They talked as if the night wasn't ending soon, as if time had softened enough to let them exist without rushing. Hours passed without them noticing. At one point, Emily leaned back, feeling a small ache of fear. Fear that the night would end and the moment would fade into memory. Jordan noticed the shift in her expression. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Emily hesitated, then spoke. "I don't want this to be just a moment." Jordan looked at her, steady and sincere. "It doesn't have to be." Emily felt her breath catch. "What do you mean?" Jordan took a small breath. "Give me your number," he said softly. "Not because something magical will happen. Not because we need to rush anything. But because I want to talk to you again. I want to know how your week goes. I want to know when you're having a hard day. And I want to be there if you ever need someone to remind you that you're not alone." Emily felt her eyes sting again, but she held herself steady. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. Jordan smiled, a warm, grateful smile. "Good." They exchanged numbers, a simple act that felt heavier than it looked. Emily typed his name with a small smile, pressing save slowly as if sealing something quietly meaningful. When she looked up, Jordan was watching her with soft eyes. "I'm glad I walked over," he said. "Me too," she replied. They stood to leave as the club began to quiet down. The night air outside was cool, gentle against Emily's skin. She wrapped her arms around herself, but Jordan stepped slightly closer, not touching her, just sharing his warmth. "Can I walk you to your car?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, feeling comfort in his presence. They walked side by side, slow and quiet. At her car, they paused, facing each other under the soft glow of a streetlight. "I'll text you," Jordan said. "I hope you do," Emily replied. Jordan gave a small nod. "Good night, Emily." "Good night, Jordan." She watched him walk away, feeling something inside her she hadn't felt in a long time. A small, hopeful spark. As she sat in her car, she realized she would remember this night forever. Not because of the club, not because of the music, but because someone saw her, truly saw her. And that changed everything.